What is up, guys? It's your boy at DFS Jimmy, once again bringing you the early week course breakdown from our friends over at fansharesports.com. That's right, the guys over at fansharesports.com are doing all the work for you. They listen to every podcast, they read every article, aggregate all of the important sentiment from around the industry into one easy-to-use place for you over at fansharesports.com. Make sure you get over there and check those guys out. They have a great early bird special for the upcoming NFL season going on right now. Make sure you get over there, take advantage of that, and get signed up before the week one kickoff. It's just around the corner, folks. NFL is upon us. Very exciting time. But this week, on this video, we are here to break down TPC Boston for the Dell Technologies Championship, the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Before we get into that, I do want to give a big shout out to this guy, Bryson DeChambeau, with his iconic hat and unconventional style. Gets the win last week. Pretty impressive stuff by Bryson. Peaking at the right time, it seems, on his way to clinching a Ryder Cup spot, as well as positioning himself nicely for a run in the FedEx Cup. Last week, Bryson made an excellent pivot in the mid-range, coming in T32nd in tags over at Fanshare Sports. Made a great pivot off the chalky or sink, who ended up burning a lot of lineups. So Bryson would have been a great pivot play. You'd have seen that if you're over there at fansharesports.com working through the ownership projections on Wednesday nights. Bryson would have popped up for you. But anyway, hope you guys had some of Bryson. Big congratulations to him. This week, though, like I said, we do want to get into the TPC Boston breakdown. And right here, we're looking at TPC Boston. Behind me, this is the 12th hole. Originally designed by Arnold Palmer in 2002. A fairly modern golf course with what I would call sort of classical touches for the location. It fits nicely, sort of in the Boston landscape. It's got a lot of the mature trees surrounding it, but it is a bit wider than off of the tee than some of the other courses in the area that are a bit tighter and a little more traditional. TPC Boston tends to have slightly easier to hit fairways. It is a very scoreable golf course, and you're going to see that when we take a look at our scorecard here in a second. But one of the things, I chose this picture for a couple of reasons. The 12th hole in before last year's round, it got lengthened a little bit by Gil Hans. It's an over 500-yard par 4 at this point. Difficult hole for the guys, and it makes for some interesting decisions off of the tee. Some guys try and decide to go down the side of the 13th fairway to get a better angle, depending on where the pin is placed. So look for some action on around the number 10, 11, 12, 13 area this week, as guys try and take some different approaches to the 12th hole. But TPC Boston is a fun golf course, in my opinion. You have an almost even distribution of difficult holes and scoring holes, and they come in varying different lengths. What you do have sort of off the tee are these wide, sort of very gentle undulating fairways, as you see through the shadows here. Just gentle undulation throughout. The fairways do kind of snake in. There's a lot of cross bunkers that come into play on the tee, or off of the tee here on at TPC Boston. So the longer hitters do have a little bit of an advantage. As you'll see, there's a couple of drivable holes, and the guys that can carry the cross bunkers certainly do have an advantage on parts of this golf course to be able to take some more aggressive lines and to set themselves up for some wedges in hand, where other guys that don't have the ability to carry will have to lay back and play a much different strategy on some of the holes here at TPC Boston. So without any further ado, the other thing with this picture I want to point your attention to is the bunkering. There are 65 bunkers around TPC Boston. The winner tends to be somebody who has gotten up and down exceptionally well in the bunkers throughout the week. Very hard to predict, but what's interesting about the bunkers here is they're sort of rugged. They're not like really nice, clean, trimmed bunkers around the edges. You see here on the lower left-hand side, you have a lot of shaggy rough that kind of grows in and around the bunkers, and a lot of jagged edges and sort of weird lips. They do that on purpose here. So guys, do not want to miss the bunker by a yard or two here. They definitely want to be in the bunkers versus around the bunkers. Being around the bunkers can be treacherous on this golf course, as the rough tends to be a bit longer here, as is the case in many of the Northeast courses. So without any further ado, let's dig into our ATK card. Actually, that's our That's our last few rounds. Here's our ATK card, and it's a longer golf course. And like I said, some of the bombers are going to have an advantage. It is a par 71. You got bent grass on the greens here, and I do think it favors a bent grass putter slightly, but it's maybe not the most important thing. We'll get to when we look at the players that have had some success here. I'll break down what I think is maybe the most important attribute for a golfer to have success on this course. But in the meantime, let's just take a look at the breakdown of this golf course. And you'll notice here at the bottom in the scorecard, kind of what I was talking about. I think it's a fun golf course because you got a lot of green and a lot of red on here. But what's interesting to me is there's only two groups of holes that are play over par. The really long par fours and the 3 long par threes are the only holes that are really difficult or where guys are not looking for birdie. The rest of the holes on this golf course, guys are looking to score. So you're gonna see aggressive play. You're gonna see the holes set up. You got several drivable par fours on this golf course. You got 2 sub 400-yard par fours, average a full half stroke under par. The par fours do account for just over 50% of the scoring here. But what's interesting is the par threes or the par fives, 2 of the par fives are very reachable for most of the field. The second one, depending on how the guys approach it, is a little more difficult to eagle or get yourself an eagle opportunity. The par 5 18th, on the other hand, guys are certainly going to be aggressive closing out their rounds at TPC Boston. You'll see it's got just over a 4% eagle clip here on average. So guys definitely need to be scoring on the par 5s here in order to maintain pace with the field. Just throughout 4 days of golf here. So par 5 scoring is crucial in my opinion this week, especially for DraftKings. When it comes to actually placing in the tournament and maintaining a solid finishing position, the par 4s are where guys are going to get that done at. But in terms of DraftKings, especially just getting you're rounding out your lineups, make sure you're paying attention to par 5 scoring, especially in the mid-range. When we're trying to kind of fill in our lineups this week, I think it's really important to pay attention to the par 5 scoring because you do have 2 par 5s on this course that guys can eagle. No one's really getting to the 7th in 2. It's a 600-yard par 5, but guys will definitely be aggressive on early in their round on the 2nd hole and late in the round on the 18th hole this week for par 5 scoring. The rest of the par 4s, sans the really long ones, guys are going to be looking for birdies here. They're going to be aggressive. All the rest of the par 4s average under par. We should expect golfers to be seeking birdie, looking for birdie here. Like I said, the fairways are a bit easier to hit here than on average. They're fairly forgiving fairways, and the bombers will be taking aggressive lines off of those to make sure they're putting themselves probably as close to the green as they can to attack if they do miss the fairway, because the rough is a bit longer here. But the bombers will have an advantage, especially on these shorter to mid-length par 4s. This does tend to be a bit of a boat race in terms of scoring. We'll see here. Actually, let's just go ahead and jump over to the golfers that have had success here in the past. And we'll just look at the last 3 or 4 years here, starting with last year. You see the winning score, 17 under. Justin Thomas wins over Spieth by 3. But guys comfortably get, under, past 10 under par here. But we just kind of run down the names, and the thing that sticks out to me here is good long iron play and fairly strong or consistent putting. All of these guys are exceptional long iron ball strikers when on. Some of them are bombers and some of them are not, but they all have great long irons. Like what do Kevin Na and John Rahm or Kevin Na and Phil Mickelson have in common? Great long iron ball striking, specifically the 175 to 200 yard range. I think that long iron play is maybe the most important factor to success on this golf course. And we're going to look at a couple more leaderboards. Let's jump to 2016, kind of get an idea of the guys that finished well. Rory McIlroy may be the premier long iron ball striker in the world when he's on. I think, in my opinion, when Rory is on with his long iron ball striking, there is nobody in the world that is as good as he is, and the close second would probably be Tiger. But Rory is just a premier long iron ball striker. Paul Casey, premier long iron ball striker. Jimmy Walker, Adam Scott, same thing. You will see a couple of guys, a couple of course horses here that maybe don't necessarily show up in the stats this week, but will show up in course history. And Patrick Reed is one of them. He has played exceptional on this golf course throughout the years. Interesting guys, maybe not top tier guys that show up here, but that have that long iron ball striking skill set. Jason Kokrak down here shows up, posting the top 10 here in 2016. So that same thing, Billy Hurley, when he's on, what is the strength of his game? Long iron ball striking. David Hearn, same thing. Kevin Chappell. We sort of see a pattern developing here. We'll get to 2015, and once again, what do we notice right at the very top? The top 4 guys are all premier elite long iron ball strikers, right? Just not. You just work your way down. Sean O'Hare, when he's playing well, long iron ball striking is his thing. Matt Kuchar, same thing. We notice Kevin Chappell, Jason Day pop up again here. It seems that whenever one of them plays well, and of course the other tends to, but this is 2 years in a row that we see Jason Day and Kevin Chappell right in the top 10, top 12 at this golf course. One more year, let's jump down to 2014, and again, we're going to see premier long iron ball strikers that are in form. Chris Kirk, Jeff Ogilvy. Jeff Ogilvy's an interesting case. Great long iron ball striker, but a phenomenal bent grass putter, right? Russell Henley, Billy Horschel, Rory McIlroy again. Long iron ball strikers. John Senden, back when he was playing really well, is a long iron ball striker. Jason Day pops up again. Jason Day's been quoted. You can check it out over at Future of Fantasy Sports. Jason Day has been quoted saying he just really enjoys the sight lines off of this golf course. Really enjoys the way the hole's set up to him. So something to keep in mind. Chesson Hadley, interesting skill set, long iron ball striking. Again, Jimmy Walker, Robert Streb, some you'll know, all really good long iron ball strikers when they're in form. That is their skill set. So to sort of support my point here, we've looked at just the last 4 years. So what I did is I went ahead and took the last 50 rounds, and I just isolated for the field. I just isolated 175 to 200 and 200 plus, and then took the average of that in the rank against the field. And in the top 25 of this metric, of the last 50 rounds, half of the guys in the top 25 have put up one or more top 10s at this golf course since 2014. And you look at these names, the top 25 breaks off right here with Ryan Moore. 12 of the top 25 have finished in the side of the top 10 once or more in the last 4 years. Again, I may be trying to apply a metric that does not actually, lead to success here. But in my opinion, looking at the guys that have had success on this golf course and looking at what they share in common when you grab just the 2 categories of proximity for long iron ball striking, I think this demonstrates pretty well that one of the skill sets that we should be looking for this week when we build our player pools is in form long iron ball strikers. So that's where I'm going to be kind of building my player pool around is are these guys strong with their long irons, and are they going to put themselves in position to score? So one of the things about TPC Boston, that the greens are a little bit on the smaller side here. They're not difficult to access necessarily, but they are they have like very clear little nooks where the pin will be. So every green has like 2 or 3 very clear defined locations for where the pin is going to go. And you do need to, with your long irons, put yourself inside of that little quadrant where the pin is going to be on a given day in order to keep pace with the field. Again, this is a bit of a boat race. Guys are going to be scoring here, and your players, all 6 of your players, are going to have to keep pace with the field in birdies. And the way to do that is giving yourself a lot of opportunities with your long irons into these tiny greens. So with that, guys, I think that is going to wrap up the course preview for TPC Boston. I want to wish everybody the best of luck at the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. I am at DFS Jimmy. Make sure you get over to Twitter. Give me a follow. Also, make sure you get over to fansharesports.com. Check those guys out. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button below. We'd certainly appreciate it. And go ahead and share this around. Give it a retweet. Best of luck this week, guys. We'll see everybody next week.